Hey there, seekers and shapeshifters, healers and expanders. Welcome to the Embodied Spirit Uncensored. I'm Nicole D'Alessandro, and I am here to guide you through an in-depth experience like no other, channeled from higher wisdom through me directly to you. This is a place for those who dare to delve deeper, who crave transformation beyond the conventional, and who are ready to embrace the mystical union of science and spirit. Here at the Embodied Spirit, we don't just scratch the surface, we dive into the very depths of existence. Prepare to be challenged, to change, and to elevate into a new version of yourself. We're inviting you into an entirely new world, a realm that extends far beyond your physical being. So if you're ready to transform your understanding and awaken to your true spirit, you're in the right place. Let's embark on this profound journey together. Welcome to Embodied Spirit Uncensored. I'm Nicole D'Alessandro, your show host, and today I have got someone really exciting I want to introduce to you, one of my beautiful students who was one of the originals of Embodied Spirituality, Laura. Welcome, Laura. How are you today?
Hi, Nicole. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me here today. I'm doing well. However, I am recovering from one of your healing sessions.
I'm just going to introduce a little bit of background into Laura and how we got to meet. So Laura came into, as a student, one of my yoga classes about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I introduced myself not only as a yogi, but as a coach, as a Reiki practitioner, and a person who works with different energetics and spirit. And that captivated Laura. So we've been on a journey together for a good 3.5 years. Laura originally came and did some working with me one-on-one. So we did some energy clearing, we did some ancestral healing, and we worked in the background because the last 3.5 years, what Laura has been processing is shifting from being an assistant principal in leadership in education through trying to reintegrate back into the classroom. So the process over the last 3.5 years has seen Laura move from leadership, from highly stressful leadership position as an AP down into backing into the classroom and realizing that her innate wisdoms of being an earth medicine woman is where her soul is calling her home to. And what we're going to be talking about today, some of the challenges, why Laura started her healing journey, what the results were from working with me on a one-on-one and through embodied spirituality, where she is at right now in this current moment. And before we actually start, what I'm going to say through my own lens is that I have had some healing sessions with Laura. And one of the things that you get to do when you work with me in embodied spirituality is you get to test if you are a practitioner wanting to step into the healing space. What I facilitate is this beautiful community, and we have in-person events, and I also offer sacred circles. And if you are a student of mine, you get to practice your skills in those settings. And I've actually had the blessing of having Laura come in as a student and want to facilitate and try out some of her wisdoms in those groups. And she has led us into some really beautiful sacred journeys. So the earth medicine elements of Laura are definitely starting to rise, and I've seen such a transition from the earlier working together into the current moment. So I'm going to let Laura talk, and it was pretty funny. I said to Laura before we started that I was going to let her do most of the talking, and she had a fucking giggle because if you know me, you know that the potential of me not talking is very rare. So this is going to be really hard. So I'm going to hand it over to Laura, and I just want to ask you, what made you start your healing journey?
So there's a couple of layers to that answer. That I think the first layer, it's something that I have been on for quite a long time in my life in different ways. And it really kind of stemmed from quite a young age where I recognized that I didn't fit into my own family and I wanted to find a way to be me.
So when you talk about didn't feel like you fit in and you wanted to come back to being more about you, and that's why you started your healing journey, Obviously, I know a little bit more about that because we've done a lot of deep work over this last 3 years. Can you speak to me a little bit more about that 10-year-old that realised that there was a lot of coldness and the relationships that were actually being formed in your family life were quite cold and there was a lot of criticism, and the contributing factors that made you feel like you didn't fit in were that. So from that age, you talk to me a lot about running away. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that facilitated you leaning more into wanting to become more you?
Yeah, so I felt like I needed to remove myself from the situation where I felt I was being, I guess, expected and asked to be someone I didn't want to be, that I needed to find space to find out who I really am, and in order to step into that space. And I knew that I didn't want to be around a place that was trying to force me and make me to be someone I'm not. So I did decide that I was going to create my own life at the age of 10 and look after myself. And I took myself over to my first house. And my first house was a wattle, so the acacia, that was down by the banks of the river. That was my front yard, and a bit of a sacred place, really, the river. And that was where my first house was. I'd made my own kitchen, my own bedroom, and I had life all mapped out and sorted out there and felt quite empowered and like I had my life in my own hands. However, it was through sitting in my brand new living room that I really felt my first communication with the plants come through. And when I look at it now, back then it was just normal, that they were like, you can't stay here, you need to go back, you need to deal with this, and you have 5 things that you need to do. And it was really about going back to school, finishing school, go on to further study, to get a job, to get married and have children. And then after I had completed those or been through those, then I got to step into the freedom that I was searching for and yearning for.
Oh my goodness. Godness, do you love it? I love this because as you do at 10, you think your life is terrible and you run away, and that is the starting formation of how we interpret our trauma. So for those of you listening, if you have been one of those people that's never felt like they belonged, or they have felt the need or the yearning to run away, my runaway was a day and I caught a bus into Fremantle. A little bit different to yours. So I guess what I want to really highlight here is the blessing in going back through those unconscious patternings or the memories and the repressions of what we might see at the time as really bad. When we've journeyed back into those places, what you start to discover are your soul calling you back home. And for Laura, when we've journeyed into some of her past expressions, and even going into those 10-year-old parts, is while there might be some grief and some pain and the reality that there were some criticisms and some challenges with connection and feeling like Laura belonged, there were also blessings hidden amongst that were always there for Laura, telling her where to look, where to extract beautiful information from so that Laura could actually navigate all the challenges that come with life into where she is at now. Which leads me to the next question, is over that term you definitely knew about plants and you had this deep connection to earth through being a farmer's daughter, agriculture being very enmeshed in your life. You went on to then be a marketing consultant and that didn't quite fit. Then you went on to being in the education space. How did you weave that, wanting to become a mother, a wife? How did plants make their way through that process from 10 up until sort of 3 years ago?
Probably more in a productive aspect. So it was always like in the veggie gardens or incorporating maybe more like native plants because they were more water friendly, and there was a big part of me trying to connect to the land by honouring the native species. So it was very much about producing your own food. And so it was really about also a place where I could, I guess, escape, or I could go to that was like a sanctuary for me. So the garden was always like a sanctuary where I felt like I could connect back into my inner world.
I love that. And that's very much what you have brought through in the journeys that I've been on with you. And I remember it was the day before my 50th birthday. I invited Laura into one of my sacred circles, and she decided that it would be her first session of guiding a beautiful group of people through a mugwort journey with Goddess Artemis. And oh my God, the journey that I was taken on into some of my earlier ancestral underpinnings was so powerful. And this woman that is sitting with me right now really does have some beautiful qualities and gifts. And I love what you just said about that sense of sanctuary and coming back home to a place of peace. So there have been elements, and I speak to this a lot with you guys about this balance between trying to dissociate as a protective mechanism to cope with some of the things that we've gone through in life, but then this also balance between the escapism of it and the sanctuary of it, and that both are very welcome. And what I love Laura said was that there were times where she wanted to escape into her plants and into her garden, but then at the same time there was this beautiful place of home and sanctuary. And it really does translate in your work when you bring it into circle and you bring it into your one-on-one healing sessions, that you are able to create a beautiful sanctuary for safety and journeying with plant medicine and herbs and goddess and any deities that we've worked with. And you also often create a place of not necessarily escape in a bad way, but for me, there was an adventure. There's an adventurous part to Laura's work that takes us into escaping the mundane reality that we live in into this beautiful other place through earth and through plant. And I love that. And it's a really beautiful place to be. So the next question I want to ask you is, what I've noticed since the 3 years ago, there was a lot of self-worth that we had to work on, a lot of challenges with, divorce and challenges with navigating adult children and the complexities of your family dynamics, and this challenge that we often, and I hope you can relate, the people that are listening to this, the challenge that we have from bridging the gap from where we are to where we want to be, and the confidence to be able to make those shifts from where we are to where we want to be. And Laura being an AP, journeying through that challenge, and teachers have it tough. Having a background in education, I want to actually highlight this because a lot of you bag us in the sense that we get all these holidays, we get all this time. It's actually bullshit. Yes, we might make what might seem high-end money for some of you. However, the work that goes in and the responsibility that goes into catering for people's lives and communities and families, it's a mammoth task. And the current state that we're living in and the culture around education is changing, has to change. So it's no easy fate. But I guess what I want to ask is the transition that we're still trying to work with is having the income to support being a single parent and being a homeowner versus trying to translate that into your earth medicine place where it means, and we were talking about this just then, we've just had a healing session. It was a huge journey. We're not going to talk about that today, but we were talking about the challenges of being in a mainstream conditioned world of a patriarchal society where there's constructs and rules and governance, and we place emphasis on earning money, which is very important, versus doing what we love. And this challenge that we have between sacrifice and a sense of betrayal and giving up of certain things, but living into our real soul purpose, and how do we translate that in both? So what I guess I'm trying to ask is, how has embodiment and the journey through my program, Embodied Spirituality, and the one-on-one sessions that we've had supported that transition of you navigating the bothness of your worlds, these two colliding worlds of, being in the construct, being in the reality of I'm a mother and a homeowner, I'm used to earning good money. How has embodiment and the program supported you in finding the confidence to step more fully into who you truly are as a plant, earth, medicine, sacred holder of this land?
Big question. As Nicole alluded to, we have just finished a session, so I do feel like you're going to get a stoned version of the answer to that question. So the program has given me so much in terms of, I guess, a spiritual framework or spiritual understanding of how I relate to the world, because I am a seeker. I am wanting that deeper connection to spirituality, but outside of a religious construct. And so for me, navigating any change can be turbulent, and there are lots of tools and strategies that Nicole has brought together that can help ground you. So there's not just a one size fits all. There are lots of options. So no matter what kind of change you might be going through or what kind of tools work for you, I feel like there's quite a big toolbox there. So sometimes a situation might call for a different tool. So I feel like there's a wide range of tools and strategies that the program's given me to navigate change. It's also given me the confidence to really step into my why and my purpose, and to have the support that I guess isn't conventional. So it's more of the spiritual support networks that we have around us. And it's given me the, I guess, permission to, or it's allowed me to give myself the permission to explore what my spirituality is.
And this is embodiment and the program, the richness of it in action. What I love, we talk a lot about spirituality, but I also want to talk about the science part of it, or the fitting into a mainstream system. Do we want to talk about the interview? There's a beautiful ancient Navajo medicine woman that has dropped in a guide, so not of Earth at this current moment, that dropped in to write this program. And I think it's module 3, and it's all about earth medicine and grounding and anchoring and embodying what we'd already learned in the first 2 modules. And Anushka, her name is. And Anushka has been quite prevalent in Laura's journey. But what I love is these integrations and tools that Laura mentions that have helped her translate into her life really did help. Laura was a bit pissed off one day and wanting to apply for an AP position, and was almost ready to pull the strings, because there's a lot of, what's the right word? Politics.
Toxic politics.
Yes, in how we navigate climbing the leadership ladder in education. And so Laura had already decided she wasn't getting this fucking job. And she said to me one day, I'm not even going to bother going through this process. And I paused and I went, oh, fucking yes, you are. Because it's got nothing to do with getting the job. It's got to do with how you can interrelate everything that you've learned. Because this is what embodiment is. It isn't just doing a program, reading the material, doing a few practices. It's about translating this stuff, offerings, these tools into your life. Otherwise, what's the bloody point? So what I loved through this journey, using the tools from embodied spirituality and working a bit one-on-one with me, we came up with some great ideas, and Laura executed them beautifully in the interview. Do you want to talk about that? Because I love that story.
Yeah, sure. So I think part of the struggle for me has been fitting into a linear world when you're a cyclical being. And so I decided to open up my interview in a truly authentic way for me, to see if where I aligned was where they aligned. And how that transpired was a guided meditation, which is something that you just wouldn't do in a traditional patriarchal government education system. So it was a massive risk for me, but what it also allowed me to do was to become visible, to be seen and to be heard in my truth. So that was my interview, was me standing in my truth. And the guided meditation was linked into the plant symbol of that school, was linked into the community aspect of a school. So it wasn't just a wacko thing that I brought in. It was very mindfully and thoughtfully brought through. And it was also an example of me walking my talk. So what I really wanted to bring in was more of a holistic view of the child at that school and more of a deeper connection to the Indigenous cultures of the people that we were on their land. And to me, it was about embodying my values with what I could see in the school setting. So the guided meditation really linked into a native plant species, the idea of a community and the well-being in action.
Oh, I love it. So I guess the message for you is, the people listening to this, is that this isn't just some woo-woo. It is woo-woo. We are a bit batshit crazy, as I always say, right? We go on some amazing adventures together. But it's not just that. It's so much more. And there are so many creative ways in which you can bring this energy and the embodiment of this program into mainstream world. It's really as creative as you want to get and as confident, because originally when I sort of pitched this idea of how we could work this, Laura was like, no fucking way can I actually do this. And we also, I think you linked it into the health curriculum, didn't you? Did you actually link it? Because you gave them a worksheet.
Yeah, so it was a link into health and well-being, and a link into sustainability, and a link into Indigenous culture and creative and critical thinking, which was kind of like my key drivers.
Boom. So see what this actually offers is it's also about evidence-based practices, and it's a supportive framework that can take you into all different directions, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a lawyer. We've got some CEOs of companies. We've got some people who are high up in the food chain of Coles. And it doesn't matter where you are coming from, even if you are already a spiritual entrepreneur or you are a hippy dippy, one of my other beautiful soulies that is going to jump on, Beck. When we first met, she goes, I don't do hippy dippy. Very science-based. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Embodiment and embodied spirituality is very much about coming back home to yourself and translating that into your own world. So a couple more questions before we sort of tie it up. One of the things that, my coaches are always saying, you give too much, don't go over time. Fuck it, I say. This work inspires and empowers me. And I always give a lot more than I probably need to, because we're in relation and this isn't work. It's a Sunday. We're sitting in my little office on a Sunday having a laugh, having a conversation after a wacky healing session that left us both feeling very stoned, and not the weed kind of stoned, just a journey stoned. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And to now, before I forget, you all know I go off on tangents. Laura and I will be bringing a lot of these sacred teachings because I love earth medicine and working with deities and plants. It's not my genre though. It's not my place. So Laura and I've got a couple of people that are coming together, will be in the near future, probably 2025, running some beautiful day retreats around this plant earth medicine and how we integrate that into embodiment, and all of the skills that we have as a collective will be coming through. So if you are interested, keep an eye out for us, because there are things that are coming that are shifting, and we're changing and expanding, and we're ever evolving. So there's so much opportunity in this. But I want to just ask you, from where you were when we first met, and there was a little bit of anger and a little bit of frustration in how you saw your world, how you saw your divorce, the processes that you're unraveling in. Where are you sort of shape-shifting into? Where do you see yourself now and maybe in the near future?
Okay, so where I see myself now is in such a much more peaceful place and an ever-evolving and deepening perspective. I have connected in really deeply to the plant medicine and understand I guess I've been drawn to under the earth. So going through a lot of shamanic ancestral healing at the moment, and that's contributing to where I'm going to next. So the ancestral healing is very much about healing the feminine within myself and my lineage, and also the masculine within myself and my lineage, in order to be able to step through and create something new from a much more lighter, expansive place, rather than trying to create something from the same place, because I'm always going to end up creating what I've already got if I don't shift or change. So to me, my future looks like expanding my understanding of running a business. I find the word business has, I can see some sessions coming up with Nicole around business. Maybe practice, I feel like I'm more comfortable with.
I like that rather than calling it business.
Yeah. So I feel like it's more transactional and it's sort of more of that cold, hard financial feel. But so really opening up my Reiki practice and the plant medicine healing aspect, and being able to support others to hold space so they can navigate their healing journeys, to bring, I think what part of my theme has been is really balancing the feminine and masculine, and instead of rebelling against the patriarch, seeing what the patriarch has brought into my life, but what no longer serves. So letting go of that patriarch and returning back to my ancestral roots of, before my ancestors were colonized and our, religion was thrust on us, and industrialization and things like that took us away from how we naturally, connected to the land and lived with the land and lived in cycles. And so I see that returning more into my life, and looking at holding space for yin yoga, and looking at partnering up with a friend who hold community yoga sessions as a fundraiser for a local wildlife centre. So it's about giving back now. So it's more in a place of service.
I love that.
Is where I'm going. Yeah.
So what are some of the lifelong resources and the access points that you'll be using from embodied spirituality, do you think, for forever?
Yoga Nidra, definitely. That's a daily thing.
So for those of you that don't know, there is a full module on Yoga Nidras and a lot of recordings on Yoga Nidras. I've had a conversation with you in an episode. Yoga Nidra is super powerful. So that's one big resource that you use often from embodied spirituality. Mm-hmm. What other sort of things that you will bring into, I know module 3 in Anushka.
Yeah, I kind of live and breathe that one. So I think it was module 2, this is testing my memory, of going back and doing the work. So I think that's always going to be threaded through, because
with Metatron, Archangel Metatron.
And doing the work, you hear that thrown around a lot, but I guess it's a lifelong journey and lifelong learning going through your personal development. And so that's something that will always be with me. Reiki, healing hands, will always be a part of what I do, where I go.
How have you found psychometry and the part 2 of this program? How did you find the integrating and weaving of some of the psychosocial aspects?
Yeah, that one, the 2 parts, it definitely had a very different feel. And I felt like the module 2, you needed to step in to yourself more in that one. So it was about asking you to become responsible for what you're doing, rather than just being a passive receiver. You are actively engaging in that process more, which actually helped embody a lot of the things. So the psychometry was fantastic. And Nicole held a circle for us all to come together who were able to make it and run it in person. That was really strengthening the trust within.
Love that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So that's something, now that you ask, I should do more of, but just to help with guidance. So yeah, that's something definitely, reading the energy of objects and that. And I guess that kind of linked me back into module 3, which is, reading into the plants and connecting into the plant consciousness.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I could just go on and on and on, because we haven't even talked about our Reiki journey when you became attuned. But we won't. We won't today. We'll leave that for another day. I'll have you on another day. So isn't it amazing that 3 years ago, if I had have said that you would be doing all of these things and you'd have all of these new skills and all of this caliber and confidence to be able to translate that into all of the ideas that you are coming and bringing to fruition as a service-based, beautiful, heart-centered being. Would you have believed me?
No, I really wouldn't, because being seen, being heard,
crying in front of a group. Who would have thought, right?
Don't get vulnerable in front of people. My goodness, don't do that stuff. Yeah, no, that wasn't who I was. So, yeah.
Well, it was who you were. You just needed to unravel a little bit more into understanding who she was, and that the permission was given in our community to feel safe in that.
Yeah, and I think that safe was a big thing for me, because I needed to feel that I could trust the space and trust the people, and trust was such a big thing that until I felt that sense of trust and felt that sense of safety, could I actually relax and open up and be who I truly was, which I guess is what I had been missing from my family.
I love that. So a couple last, we're just sort of finishing off now, and I love this, is how do you find the Voxer group and the community that we're creating and growing in embodied spirituality?
Oh, absolutely love it. I love how there's people from all different walks, all different skill sets, all different experiences. It's very warm, open, supportive community, and there's just a lovely sisterhood. I don't know what the hood is that you call it when it's not just about females and it's men. It's not the brotherhood. It's not the sisterhood. There's got to be a new hood, right?
Yeah.
But there's a new hood.
The love hood?
The love hood,
The people, yeah. All right, we'll have to brainstorm on that.
Work on that. But yeah, so it is very much about a supportive community, and yeah, you can see how people are, collaborations are starting to grow, and yeah, it's a beautiful community.
Love that.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who is feeling like they don't belong, or feeling lost, or wanting to get into some service-based practices, or even want to level up in their family life and their relationships, or as a corporate CEO? What would you say about this program, and maybe why they could consider coming on board, and why 12 months has been so pertinent rather than it be one of those 8-week, 6-week, 4-week courses?
I think if you want any kind of true change, you have to put in a true commitment to be able to honour that process of change, because change isn't instant, it isn't overnight. So for people wanting maybe something different because they want to create something different, carve away, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes a week, try and create that little pattern or that habit where you give yourself that time and space, and to connect when you can, to take the pressure off yourself and give yourself the support that you need. So listen to what it is that you do want, and find that space or that place where you can close off everyone else's voices so that you can truly drop in and listen to what it is that you want, what you need, what you're looking for.
And who do you think this program, Embodied Spirituality, is for?
I think anyone, and there'd be a full stop after that. But if you're someone who's looking for something new in your life, something different, someone who's realised what they're doing isn't working for them, and they want to try something else that is open, holistic, isn't going to make you change who you are, that's going to give you options and the space to grow into yourself, then this is the program for you.
I love that. It was such a pleasure. Well, thank you for listening, and I love you all, and I love you, Laura, and I'm looking forward to the journey that we're going to take together over the coming years. We're going to travel together. We've got so many plans. It's not funny. And what would I want to say to you people? Get in touch, book the free heart-to-heart like Laura did, all those years ago. It's a conversation. There's no pressure. I'm not selling you anything. I am just embodying what I believe that is a beautiful space to grow and expand and to emanate out into the world. So until next time, we're going to stay batshit crazy, aren't we, after our session? And we might share that later down the track. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and please stay batshit crazy. Thank you for joining us on The Embodied Spirit Uncensored. Today's journey may have ended, but your personal transformation has only just begun. So keep channeling the insights and energies from our episode And as you move forward, remember, this podcast is for those who are not just living, but are seeking to live profoundly. Continue to explore, expand and evolve with us. Make sure to follow this series, connect with us on Instagram at Nicole D'Alessandro Perth, or visit www.nicoledalessandro.com.au for more transformative content. You can also find me on Facebook at Nicole D'Alessandro. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and more importantly, stay batshit crazy as you embody and explore beyond your current realm of existence. I'll see you later for now, and remember, this journey to embodying your spirit is the most significant journey you'll ever undertake.